we'll be looking at Bigfoot sightings and looking at the BFRO website in more detail in order to get some more information on some of these sightings. So what we do have is the sightings in yellow, and the yellow points. The state of Ohio in this purple color. We have state boundaries, which are quite useful, and that's the way that the BFRO has sorted much of their data. And we have USA parks, which have national and state parks, regional, county, and local level parks. Also state forests and national forests. So the more we zoom in, the more detail we get. We also have world imagery and the hybrid reference layer associated with that. So the more you zoom in, you get road names and place names and road labels, state like highway and county road numbers. So we'll turn on the Bigfoot layer. We also have the Bigfoot layer. They have either an A or a B labeled, and A's refer to visual sightings of a Bigfoot. B's refer to evidence such as wood knocks, footprints, vocalizations, nests, or any other evidence that could support the fact that Bigfoot, Yeti, Sasquatch, skunk ape, or whatever you want to call him or her, exists. So let's zoom out to the state of Ohio. We have major cities: Cleveland in the north, Akron, Columbus, Dayton, and Cincinnati. We have state parks, forests, and the green, mainly in the southeast of the state. So let's turn on the Bigfoot sightings layer from the BFRO, downloaded from the Esri GIS hub, and let's have a look to see if we can find any clusters of points. And I would say there's a cluster of points here in the county of Guernsey, perhaps named after the island between England and France, maybe. But anyway, you can see there's a cluster of points within Salt Fork State Park. So let's have a look at some of these. Let's go with a Class A sighting to start with. May 2013, sighting of two animals walking a ridgeline in Salt Fork State Park. So we're going to flip back to the BFRO website. And again, what was the date? May 2013. May 2013, Class A sighting. Then I knew what I was looking at. On top of the ridge, there was two Bigfoots, and they were black and huge. I tried to catch up with them to get a picture. These things were walking fast, and once they got to the bottom of the ridge, they took off into the bush. But I did manage to get one good picture. You can see in the picture, the one turned to look to see if I was still trying to follow them. When the one turned to look back, he had to turn his whole top half of his body with his left arm going across his chest to look back at me. I tried to follow them, but once they got in the brush, I could not hear or see them. But I got a great look at them. So that looks like it's the photo. I don't really see anything there. the surrounding woods. This is a photo of some eye shine. And oh, this is great. This is a good little photo of a possible nest. That's quite good. Flipping back to the photo, back to the GIS map. Let's have a look at another Class A sighting. August 2004. While picnicking in the early evening, a couple has a sighting at Salt Fork Park. August 2004. My wife and I were having a picnic supper at Salt Fork Park on August 18, 2004, approximately 7 p.m. After approximately 15 minutes, we decided to hike down a path into the woods with our dog. After progressing approximately 15 feet into the woods, we heard a loud, unexplainable noises. The noises/howls continued as whatever was making the noises seemed to be walking parallel with us. We were nearly 75 yards into the wooded area when we stopped and looked more closely to see what was making the noises. The noise was heard again, and I saw it and began shouting my wife, "There it is, there it is." Together, we saw what appeared to be a nearly 8-foot tall, dark-covered subject looking at us. We watched it for about 10 seconds, and then it walked upright in a human form, deeper into the woods, away from us. Scared, we turned quickly and walked out of the woods, hearing the noise several times behind us. We reached our picnic area, picked up our belongings, and that's when we heard it again, this time thunderously loud, and we knew it had followed us. And we believe it was within 50 feet of us, still concealed in the woods. We grabbed our stuff and ran for our vehicle with our dog. It was the eeriest encounter we have ever had in our lives. Wow.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of GIS Answers. Today we'll be looking at part 2 of Ohio Bigfoot sightings using ArcGIS Pro. We left off looking at Salt Fork State Park. There was a cluster of sightings in that area, and we looked at some reports from the BFRO website, and that was in Guernsey County. So what we're going to do is look to see if there's any other clusters of sightings. And here's some right around Canton, Ohio, Stark County. If you didn't see the first episode, the sightings are in yellow points. Okay, the counties are the red boundaries, and we have national parks, state parks, regional, county, and local parks, and national and state forests in the green. But this is just on the outside of Canton, Ohio. A Class A sighting would be a visual sighting of a Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, or whatever you want to call him or her. And a Class B sighting would be evidence to support the fact that there is a Bigfoot, which could be footprints, vocalizations, nests, broken tree limbs, or any evidence to support that. So let's have a look. There's a Class A here. In February 1995, two friends witnessed a tall, hairy creature drinking from a pond. So we're going to flip back to the BFRO website, the Bigfoot Research Organization website. And it was February 1995 in the county of Stark. Now let's look for February 1995, see if it's actually here. Don't think I see that one. Oh, yep, there it is, Class A. pond is clearly visible from the road, but on private property. One morning between 6 and 7 a.m., I was driving west on Baum Road in Stark County, Ohio. There's a small pond. At that time, there were large bushes growing on either side of the pond. I traveled that road a lot, and it became a habit to glance down at the pond to look for deer. On this particular morning, I saw without a doubt, was a large, fur-covered creature. He was squatting in front of the bushes at the edge of the pond and was using his right hand to drink, dipping into the water. A friend was in the car with me. We were going to breakfast. She saw the exact same thing. We didn't talk about it or even acknowledge that we'd seen anything. Frankly, I thought I couldn't possibly have seen what I saw. Finally, I asked her if she'd seen anything at the pond. She described the same scene. We were too stunned, awed, to go back to turn around for a second look. Wow, that's great. So 2 witnesses saw the same thing at this pond. So a great example there. Class A sighting, visual sighting. And just on the edge of town here, let's have a look at another one. September 2011, Class A sighting. Strange occurrences outside a home lead to a daylight sighting by a father and son near East Canton. September 2011, Class A sighting, East Canton. So it began by hearing a low guttural growl in the backyard. We stood there in amazement because of the size of this human-looking creature. I asked my son what it was doing, and he replied, "It's moving its upper body back and forth." At this time, I really don't think that it set into our minds what we were exactly looking at. But I can say that it seemed as though time stopped, and I have no idea how long we actually viewed this thing. We both just stood there and watched this thing, and we never moved an inch because I think we were in shock from the massive size. The unexplained creature appeared to be at least 7.5 feet tall and had to weigh a minimum of 600 pounds. The hair was dark reddish brown, and it had matted and a dirty look to it, and most of the face was covered with hair. But from what you could see, it appeared to be of human trait. The ears were covered with hair, and it was standing at an angle to us. But I could see the legs were extremely muscular and large, and the arm's length seemed to go just past the knees. I just couldn't help but to stare at this creature because I couldn't believe the size and just how big it was. I believed that as it was swaying its upper body back and forth, because I knew that it knew we were there. And he goes on to say it seems like some kind of hypnosis. "We need to go," he said to his son. Wow, that's pretty good. So that's just on the edge of Canton. Here's a cluster in a park. Cuyahoga, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Valley National Park. You can see there's a cluster right around this park. Some Class A sightings, one right in the middle. September 2005, man recalls early evening sighting near Brandywine Ski Resort, Summit County, September 2005. Summit County, 2005. I was driving on Route 271 north over by Boston Mills Ski Resort when I spotted something walking into the woods in an upright position. I knew it wasn't a man or a bear. It was at the top of the hill on the south side of Route 271. I found a site that has sightings and shows the locations on the Ohio map, and there was a sighting reported around the same place and time. So there is a cluster around here in this park, definitely. Let's have a look again. There's another Class A sighting. June 2011, daylight sighting behind a home in the national park. Again, I don't know how to pronounce that. Cuyahoga, maybe. June 2011, Summit County. June 2011, I saw a Bigfoot from the chest up, just below my house. It was in a wooded ravine below my house. This was on June 4th, 2011. It arrived here with a great deal of crashing and breaking down of trees. I was looking to see what was coming when it stood up and looked at me. It had grayish brown long hair, particularly over the face, wide set of eyes, ears on the side of its head, and a huge chest and shoulders. It looked at me for maybe 1 minute, then went back down the ravine. Later that day, it was making lots of sounds like low grunts. My friend heard this as well. After staying in the Cuyahoga Valley area all summer, and I would often hear it calling, smashing rocks together, knocking on trees, and one day it sneezed a lot. Another day in September, my cousin was using a large tractor to mow under the trees behind my house, and as I walked to my car from behind the house, I heard a terrific crash to my right, and there it was again. It had knocked over a tree, and then I saw it run back into the ravine. I did not see any tracks because I knew it was down in the ravine most of the time. I left it alone. It only recently seems to have left the area. I heard something like it for about 2 years, but never saw it again. Never saw it in that time. So they heard it for about two years, but never saw it again. Anyway, that's really great. So that's part 2 of the Ohio investigation.
Hey everyone, just a quick video today on a sighting from a viewer. He says, I had a sighting at Dillon State Park outside Zanesville, Ohio. I took a brief walk to the lake. It was February of 2022 when I heard a howl, or a sound I had never heard before. It drew my attention to the woods when I had seen a large creature covered in black fur near the lake. It froze and stood up still, and when I walked toward it, it howled again at me, but louder this time. Then it and a juvenile casually walked into the woods. Says that he reported it to the BFRO and contacted the Southeast Ohio Bigfoot Research Society. It was incredible and life-changing. Thanks for sharing that. That's amazing. So let's have a look at this Dillon State Park and the lake just outside Zanesville, Ohio. There's Zanesville, Ohio, and just north of that, to the northwest, is Dillon Lake. You can see how wooded it is around the lake. Pretty cool. Let's see how wide this lake is. Doesn't look to be very wide. So no, not even a third of a mile wide. Dillon Lake. Looks like a campground here on the lake. So I'm going to use these coordinates and see how, if there was a Bigfoot, how a Bigfoot could easily move throughout some of these roads. It could move past a subdivision here along this watercourse, and it's Dillon State Park. Yeah, so look at that watercourse, that river winding its way through between the roads and the settlements. Quite awesome, and like really, it could go on for miles, and it does. And there's a railway line that traverses along, as well as a highway along the river. Quite cool, really awesome. So totally possible, and what a sighting. So let's have a look. I've taken these coordinates and I've put them into Google Street View. Unfortunately, there isn't any Street View
in this area, close enough to the lake to have a look at the lake. But I did find this photograph at the campground. I don't know if the viewer was at the campground, but you get a good perspective on look how wooded the other side is and adjacent to the campground. Potentially, possibly he was here, maybe not, but it gives you some kind of idea of where he was. And let's see if there's any other photos in this area. Here's one here. Oh, here's a trail, a wooded trail. Very nice, beautiful. You can see how dense the vegetation is. Pretty awesome. And let's have a look at some of these roads. I'll just show you that, yeah, there's not much in the way of. Let's have a look. Look at the edge of this road, this Highway 146. You'd think that you might be able to get a view of the lake. Let's get an idea of the driving conditions along the lake. But boy, look how wooded that is. You don't even get a view of the lake. You don't see that watercourse or the lake next to the road because of how dense the forest is. Pretty awesome. So there you have it. There's a good sighting in Ohio, and thanks to the viewer for sharing that. I appreciate it. See you all again soon. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of GIS Answers. Please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Today we'll be looking at Ohio and Bigfoot sightings. So this is part 3 of the series, and this should be the last one for Ohio unless somebody else wants me to look at a particular county. And we're looking at clusters of sightings in Ohio. So we're just going to pan around and look for some clusters and see what we can find. Right here in Portage, looks like a cluster around the state park. West Branch State Park looks like a few sightings within there. So the sightings are in yellow, either labeled A or B. A would be a visual sighting of a Bigfoot, or B would be physical evidence, or smells or vocalizations to support the fact that Bigfoot exists. Okay, so we'll have a look at some of these points, and then we will flip back to the BFRO website, the Bigfoot Research Organization website, to look at further information on the sightings. So over by Campbell Sport, there's a sighting, October 2003, Class A sighting, ongoing encounters with Fang, an old family, I can't quite see that, on an old family farm. Fang. So this Bigfoot's got a name. Let's see what this is all about. October 2003 in Portage County, or Portage County, Portage County. Not really sure how would you pronounce that. Okay, Portage County, October 2003, Class A sightings. I myself have had many occasions with the creature I have dubbed Fang. I have come to understand through self-experiences that there is more than one creature in our area. I go hiking quite often in the same area and know exactly where they usually are, as they tend to follow me most of the times I am there. My mother told me today about your website, and I felt obliged to write. I fear of people coming to our area and trying to find Fang and his clan. I feel somewhat of an understanding and a protective closeness, and I feel they should be left alone. Fair enough. My children have heard their cries out in the woods, and we have gotten rather close enough for the smell many times. Just last week, my youngest son and I found footprints in the woods by a thicket, too dense for us to walk into. Okay. So interesting. Seems to be regular occurrences. Another sighting, an A classification. February 1994. Man recounts sighting from his teens near Edinburgh. Can't quite read that with the label over it. Winter 1994, Jay Lake area, West Branch of State Park. West Branch State Park. A friend and I were fishing a pond. The pond was mostly frozen over except for a spot in the middle, which we were casting into. I don't know how long we were fishing, but across the pond, a figure stood up from the shoreline area and walked up a steep hill. When it got to the top, it turned back to look at us. The figure was large, covered with hair, and walked on two legs. It was winter, the pond was frozen, and the figure wore no clothes, so there's no way it was a human. We were around 15 years old. So we took off, since we were scared by this encounter. We viewed the figure for maybe 1 to 2 minutes. The figure made no noise, walked up the hill, and turned back and looked at us. The figure didn't just run away. So interesting, an interesting account. And if anybody does have an account, you can report your sightings to the BFRO, bfro.net. Here's a couple of Class B sightings. August 1999, tracks found in West Branch State Park. August 1999. Tracks found in West Branch State Park. While doing some early season scouting for deer in a remote part of West Branch State Park, I noticed a set of strange tracks that looked very fresh. At first they looked very human, but I thought it was odd a person would be walking barefoot in some of the nastiest, deepest, and thick mud slop around. The inlet along the shores of the lake were covered with pricker bush and briars. I followed the tracks for about 400 yards until they cut through a mud swamp. A person would have taken the easy, dry trail. These tracks went through the mud swamp. I tried to step through the swamp, but sunk over my boots. That's when I really looked hard at the tracks. They were not outrageously long. I would say they're size 10, but they were very narrow, and they sunk a lot deeper into the mud than my 200-pound frame did. The toes were very strange and appeared to be much longer than humans. The left foot like it had suffered an injury or two of the anterior toes. The stride was long, and I had to stretch to walk the same path. I'm 6 feet tall. I circled around the swamp and caught the tracks on the other side of the swamp and followed them for 300 yards until I lost them back at the dry ground where they went into the forest. I've spent many days and evenings hunting and fishing here. Prior to finding the tracks, while night fishing, my friend and I heard loud wails and shrieking in the woods. It was not raccoons or owls, and appeared to move quickly past our location. Very interesting. That's, yeah, I mean, What does everybody think of that? I mean, somebody walking through a swamp barefooted. I mean, it's a bit odd, very odd. And it would be, along this swamp. I take it, when you're looking at this this inlet, perhaps here or here, very wooded and swampy. It's hard to believe that a barefooted person would be, walking through the woods and then walking into a forest without shoes on. Very interesting. Let's have a quick look at another one in this area. Possible nighttime encounter while fishing. Yeah, okay. So that's June 2009. A god-awful, deafening scream that was so humanly loud and horribly frightening, that it immediately put me into a state of absolute scared to death. I'm gonna die if I don't get away from this wretched scream. Wow. I hadn't felt this alarmed since fighting in Iraq for my life. It was the first time I was actually scared in the woods anytime with a firearm at my side. Unbelievable. Well, that's very interesting. And accounts from military personnel who've been in wars, and they come that close to, potentially a Sasquatch, and it can scare the hell out of you. So, and then these reports, it takes people a lot of guts to report these accounts. And if you do have an account, report it to the BFRO if you want to, if you wish to. And then maybe you get yourself on the map and share your accounts with the BFRO and get on the map if you want to. If you don't want to and want to remain anonymous, keep it to yourself. Nothing wrong with that. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of GIS Answers. Today what we're looking at is the county of Defiance in Ohio. We have a viewer called Steve who's interested in seeing these two BFRO sightings. He lives in this area and he's interested in hearing about these two. Both are Class A sightings. One's in 1977 and I do believe the other one is in 1998. So we'll just have a look at this one, south of the city of Defiance, 1998. A man in a boat spotting deer witnesses a 3 to 4 foot tall bipedal walking on a log followed by a scream. So let's have a look. It seems like there's a river running south of the city. And it looks like a wooded area surrounded by subdivisions, but so this would be a prime area for Sasquatch. Perhaps a good habitat with wooded and access to water. So we'll flip over to the BFR website and have a look at this 1998 sighting. The nearest road is State Route 66. I live in Defiance, Ohio, along the Orglaze River. I was going upriver in my rowboat with a motor while the river was flooded. I like to go out to see if I can spot deer. I got a mile or so upriver and was rounding a bend in the river where there were lots of trees piled up from floods. I saw a glimpse of what looked like a small Bigfoot, 3 to 4 feet in height. It walked up a log and disappeared over a pile of trees. Just as I looked to my right, I saw 3 or 4 deer standing there looking at me. I jokingly said to the deer, "Did you see that?" Just when I started to speak, I heard a scream that would curdle milk. I just sat there, fighting the current, watching the deer. they started looking around trying to see what made the noise. For the heck of it, I started talking to it to see what would happen again. It did, only louder and longer than before. The deer took off, and so did I. I've lived on the river my whole life, and I've never heard that before. Since then, I've spotted what seemed to be the same creature watching me while I was sitting in a lagoon off the river. It's a good spot to see wildlife. The creature I've seen is small, only 3 to 4 feet tall, and always in the shadows, where I can't get a good look at it. It was in the evening, the sun was real low, it was getting dark, but I could still see. The environment is swampy, rocky, wooded. This used to be the Great Black Swamp. Okay. So that's a cool one. Here's another one. Just off, looks like Highway 127. Looks like an agricultural area. Midnight sighting by a motorist on Coy Road. So if we zoom in, there's Coy Road. It looks like the intersection of Coy Road and Moon Road. And as you can see, there's farms with some wooded patches interspersed within, and it looks like a watercourse that would run through these wooded areas, which obviously looks like a riparian zone along these watercourses, and they're connecting these wood patches. So if a Bigfoot was going to travel, or any animal in that fact, for that matter, they would travel along the watercourses that provides this wooded cover and connecting larger patches of forest. Okay, so let's look at this other. Let's go back and have a look. Okay, 1977, a Class A. A Class A is a visual sighting. While traveling at 55 to 60 miles an hour, it saw what appeared to be a tall being covered with brown hair. It was standing in a ditch beside a cement bridge that was about 2 to 3 feet above the road. The being's head was about another 2 to 3 feet above that. I estimated that the being would have stood 8 to 9 feet tall. The next morning, at about 10 a.m., I went back, because I wanted to make sure that I had not just seen weeds sticking up. The site was clear, no tall weeds or anything that would or could have been what I had saw. I did not think about checking for tracks at that time. The time was around midnight. The being was standing in a ditch that ran through an 8 to 10 acre wood. The woods are about 50 feet off the road. On the other side of the road is open farmland. There are houses a quarter mile on each side of the ditch. The farm to the north has a barn within 100 feet of the ditch. All right, let's go back and have a look at the map. So perhaps there's the ditch, maybe. Yeah, hard to tell. I mean, there's around this area there's farms with barns, forested areas. So yeah, I mean, a decent story there. And if you're going out squatching, you could drive some of these back roads, have a look, and maybe do some wood knocks or some calls out into these wooded areas. But do that at your own risk, and if you're interested in that kind of thing. If you enjoy these videos, just let me know, and we'll look at some other parts of the USA and Canada. Thank you.